This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And on this week's episode, he's taking a look at the absolutely bonkers sci-fi weaponry of the classic shooter, Perfect Dark.
Some sort of fish-based sniper rifle.
Usually we reserve that sort of thing for Destiny too.
Yeah, well, this thing was ahead of its time.
If you want to scratch that nostalgia itch, definitely check out our episode on the other iconic rare shooter, GoldenEye, and let us know what other games you'd like to see us cover in the comment section down below. Right, over to Jonathan.
This being a follow-on from GoldenEye, I don't know if this is meant to be the sort of Tokarev-based Dostave from GoldenEye. It looks a bit different to that. I'd say it's more generic 1911 kind of look to it. Maybe one of the 90s Smith & Wesson models, something like that. It's pretty generic. Looks good for the time. And now we have a sniper variant, because you can just put a giant scope on a pistol and it becomes a sniper rifle. Way more detail going on here than GoldenEye. Well, that looks a lot like the WA-2000, only in space.
At least they've not unbullpupped this one.
Thankfully. We still don't have the, well, either iron sights or scope view. We've just got this sort of weird zoomed in reticle situation going on. I'm guessing this is made out of some modern sci-fi materials, because the real WA-2000 weighs an absolute ton. Oh, he's still coming. He shot the gun out of his hand. My gun! Oh, he's thought better of it. The infamous laptop gun. I've heard of this, never actually seen the model for it. Doesn't look much like a laptop to me. In what sense is it a laptop gun?
I think it's meant to be disguised as a laptop.
Well, yes, but it isn't.
You can throw it and it becomes a little turret as well.
Oh yeah. So, it comes in a briefcase. Thus, we have to get out the briefcase, MP5. But it seems like you immediately discard the briefcase, and what it looks to be is just a very thin gun with a pivoting concealed optic. I don't see it at any stage actually looking like a laptop, unless I'm missing something. This thing, I'm sure you're aware, for shooty end, holdy bit, safety, and trigger. And inside here, we have a nice loadout episode with this in it, by the way. So, closest thing we would have to this thing in terms of a firearm concealed in a briefcase. And this has the advantage that you can shoot from the briefcase.
Yeah, it's described as a submachine gun made to look like a laptop PC. In disguised form, the gun cannot fire, but when activated, it unfolds into shape. The PC gun will not bear close inspection. It will boot up, but the memory is a quarter of what it's supposed to be. Average fire rate, 1000 RPM.
Yeah, I think I just saw, when you were converting it to a turret there, I saw the front end pivot down. So I'm guessing its scope goes flat, front end pivots, and then somehow you can open it up and it looks like a laptop. I don't know if at any point in the game it actually looks like a laptop. Fairly generic Magnum revolver. The latch on it looks, I don't know, maybe a Ruger. This is a pretty close analog. So Colt Python, stainless finish, classic Rick Grimes revolver. Now the graphics haven't quite caught up at this point, so we have no trigger represented inside the trigger guard. On the face of it, it's not a Colt because it doesn't have that double dip shape on the trigger guard. They're barely able to represent firearms faithfully in 3D at this point, so they're not going to worry too much about detail. I like the pop-out cylinder and the speed loader. We've even got the hammer being animated coming back before it drops, which is nice. But it's good, you know, the hammer comes back when you pull the trigger, and the cylinder revolves as well. So they've paid attention to how double action revolver actually works. We even get the dry fire of the trigger mechanism there. Not just a click, but the mechanism still cycles. A Proximity mine below the barrel. Well, this is interesting. This is confounding me because I'm used to things from the 90s, 2000s being mirrored on the wrong side. I'm not used to them ejecting cases out of either the left or the right, depending on its mood. Resemblance-wise, it looks most like a Daewoo USAS 12 shotgun, I would say, with the giant ejection port, big carry handle, big blocky front end, but it's a rifle. Maybe that combined with a G36 or something.
Maybe it's just the green, but it also looks a little pulse rifle.
Rifle. Yeah, I think that's deliberate. Although the actual pulse rifle was a brown color, just looks a bit green under the lights. Mega nerd fact there. In fact, it was a paint color called Brown Bess. Looks pretty fun to use. Good sound effect, good rate of fire. Guess it kind of replaces the AK or the M16 in GoldenEye.
The weirdest thing is that you can throw it and turn it into a landmine.
Oh, that's what it means by a proximity mine under the barrel.
Isn't there a weird real-world parallel in the Pancor jackhammer? Wasn't it the cylinder supposed to be like a shotgun landmine sort of thing?
Yeah, the designer, bless him, thought that you could. I guess the spare you'd be carrying in theory, although didn't get to the point of working out how to reload it. You could put it down and it would fire shotgun rounds upwards and shred your legs or whatever. I don't think these guys would have known about that, but maybe. All right, so you like the other gun. Let's put 2 magazines on it. Well, that's fair enough. Yep, sort of OICW situation, under barrel launcher. What's weird though is that the mag for the grenades is smaller than the mag for the rounds. Not clear why you need to turn the weapon to one side to use the under barrel launcher, and there's no way of aiming it. I mean, gameplay wise, I guess it's so that you can tell which weapon you have ready to go, and presumably to slow you down a bit so you can't just gun, grenade, gun, rinse and repeat. So this is the thing people say is the Auto 9, or based on the Auto 9 from Robocop. Yes, in terms of its proportions and the burst fire, but it's very, very different. Almost looks more like a competition 1911 with a flared magazine well on the bottom of it, inside some sort of sci-fi housing. I was expecting more of a rip-off, frankly.
This being the Xbox Live Arcade version, the original N64 version did look a lot more like the Auto 9.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. I thought these models looked a bit too detailed. So that's interesting. It looks like they've tried to distance the design from the original.
We're getting into more of the weird weapons of Perfect Dark now.
It's looking pretty weird. I'm not even sure which way round you're supposed to hold that. Surprisingly underwhelming in terms of effect. Oh, okay. That's really weird. It's a bit like a strip feed, like the old French Hotchkiss, very late 19th century, early 20th century. But those feed the strip through the gun as you shoot. This seems to strip them all off into some kind of internal magazine and then shoot them all from that. Very strange. Interesting though, fun.
The main reason I included it was because of the similarities of the reload to the Hotchkiss. I'll read you the description as well. Designed for use by bodyguards, the Cyclone has been adopted by presidential security personnel due to its excellent capability when used for suppression. In extreme circumstances, it can more than double the fire rate, discharging the magazine in a second.
A second?
It has like a mag dump mode.
So I just saw it do magazine discharge and it didn't look any different.
The rate of fire does increase.
Don't think that's done in a second though, is it?
No, it's not. They're being generous with the second.
Yeah, so it's more like more of a hyper bursty type situation. That looks just like the not P90 from GoldenEye, but with a conventional magazine at the rear. Of course, we've got magazine reloads, which we didn't have in GoldenEye. Just the gun would disappear out of view and magically be replenished. And rather than lean into the P90, they have come up with their own gun that just visually goes back to the GoldenEye gun. The name of which has escaped me.
RCP-90?
RCP-90. Thank you.
This is the one that I thought was a little fam-ass as well, with the bullpup magazine.
Well, this is the thing. So they're clearly riffing on the RCP-90, but they've taken it so far that it looks more like a sort of painted up FAMAS. You've got the magazine, conventional box magazine at the rear, and the little sight tower arrangement of the P90 is much longer and looks much more like the carry handle of the FAMAS as well. And even the ribs of the handguard are sort of represented there as well. So I wonder if that isn't a deliberate design choice, at least for this remastered version. But a good excuse to get another FAMAS out. Really nice and light, this thing, compared to certain bullpups I could mention. Oh, okay. Looks like I was off base there, because we have an RCP-120, which is a direct reference to the RCP-90, but looks a lot less like it than the previous gun. So this is the canonical follow-up to the RCP-90, I guess. Only some numbers better. And it ejects from the left, and it's basically like a compact FAMAS with a magazine at the back instead of the P90 mag. How interesting. This the other ostensibly new gun looks more like the old gun than the one that's supposed to. Weird how the rounds are very slowly creeping into the action. Why are they doing that? We fire a shot and then they very slowly move up one with no visible spring or feed mechanism. Does that mean you can't pull the trigger again until the next round is in position? Probably not. I suspect you can keep firing and the animation just catches up. What does Wall Hugger do?
It's like a sticky grenade.
Oh, that makes sense. Ask a silly question. Grenades rounds themselves look a bit tiny for the effect that we're seeing here. Maybe 20 millimeters at max, which is a bit small for an explosive round. Definitely for those great big fireballs we're seeing. Oh, okay. What on earth is that?
Yeah, now we're getting really weird.
Appears to be a bona fide ray gun.
I really just don't like how you reload it by giving it a little pinch.
It almost looks like you're adding a blob of goo to the existing blob of goo.
It's like combining two balls of blue tack and then shooting them.
Yes, with a bit of Cronenberg thrown in. Or maybe Giga with the sort of organic mechanical thing going on. Did not expect this one. I'd say this is more of a Half-Life weapon, actually, thinking about it. I'd expect you to get this off an alien in Half-Life.
The game does get a little alien-y.
Yep, I am seeing aliens as I speak. And another weird, waspy, insecty looking, disgusting thing, but it just shoots lasers. Ugh, that's even worse. Well, no, it's slightly better. It's like you're feeding it. Sort of noms the magazine in.
The description is another example of the excellent Mayan firearm design. It can fire standard shots as fast as any other SMG, or it can fire high velocity rounds which will easily penetrate objects to find targets hiding in cover.
High velocity rounds. They don't look very high velocity. Oh, is that the high velocity mode? Still. I mean, they're visibly traveling slower than a bullet does. I guess it's a relative thing. Oh, hello. That's even weirder. Some sort of fish-based sniper rifle.
Usually we reserve that sort of thing for Destiny too.
Yeah, well, this thing was ahead of its time.
Being able to look through and shoot through walls, it's like the Eraser Gorse gun.
Yes. Do you know, I was trying to think what that zoomed in shot reminded me of. That's exactly what it has to be based on. A classic, of course. Really clever, actually. I'm trying to think of... We must have seen something that does something similar, but I can't think of it. This is also weird. From the sci-fi weapons school of give it a slide anyway, and we can charge it up.
The magazine has a massive blade on it, which you don't get to hit people with. It just looks very uncomfortable when you're snapping it into the housing.
Not an ergonomic triumph, I wouldn't have said. These alien weapons reminding me of Unreal, like the original Unreal, which was just before this, of course.
I suppose human hands weren't really meant to shoot it, so maybe that's the justification.
Maybe, but it's funny how they all have a fairly convenient pistol grip. Although it looks a bit large for the hand. I'm not sure what's going on at the front there. That kind of looks like it's meant to be a front sight, but it's unusable on account of 70% of the gun being directly behind it. Maybe it's some sort of tracking antenna. And they keep coming. reapage. It has a setting called reapage. This is our classic chain gun, effectively. And despite being an alien weapon, it's discharging fired cartridge cases. Is it meant to be like a hybrid?
Your guess is as good as mine, honestly.
No, not. Oh, it's still firing green laser bolts or whatever they are, but it's also eject. I mean, I guess they thought we can't have a Gatling gun that doesn't eject cases, but they could have come up with something.
The reapage mode is just shooting, but there's the grinder mode, which turns the barrels into. You're just basically pushing it into enemies.
No comment. Okay, everyone, that was significantly more wacky than I was expecting. Those were the guns of Perfect Dark. Missed out on that one, and I shouldn't have. I hope you enjoyed it. As I always like to say, please do join us over on our Royal Armouries YouTube channel and/or our social media outlets. Check out the website, any events going on. We have the final weeks of our Reloaded temporary exhibition. If you're able to visit us, that's amazing. But we will see you here again on the GameSpot channel next week.